Okay, let's start with this.
We are back, baby. We are fucking back. We're back. Classic. We are back.
Is this year 3 for the Niner Family Huddle, or is this year 2?
I think technically it's like year 2.5 because I think the very first time we started it was like mid-season. But yeah, that's exciting. So yeah, we're back. Football's back. Niners are in mid-season form because players are dropping like flies, and we'll talk about it after this. We just played a second time almost.
Yeah, round 2. We're not done.
Anyway, yeah, Niners are in mid-season form. Players are getting injured all over the place. But let's start with probably the most important injury so far, which is Kyle Shanahan. Like you were just saying before we started, Steven, I don't care about the storylines of like why did it take so long. Like I don't know. I don't care as long as you would cover it up if someone was like drunk or something, but nobody was drunk. We're just hoping that Kyle and can heal up and whatnot. But I don't know. What's been your guys' take on the injury? Do you think this thing can linger, and how do you think it kind of affects the team's training camp and preseason, if at all?
Steven, you go first because I've got a little bit of a longer take, so I want you to get your thoughts.
Okay, so I feel like the good thing for the Niners is they have a lot of returning coaches. Like, I know not everybody's back, but I feel like there's a decent amount of stability in the building where I feel like they can weather this okay. It's not like Kyle just showed up last year, the year before, and they're still like trying to up and up. Like, their culture is established. They have a veteran team. They have veteran coaches. Like, I feel like they can weather it. But if I'm being honest, yeah, I want Kyle there. Like, I want him at full strength. I heard something on the radio the other day that like where he's missed the most is like in the team meetings, like where he's addressing the whole team. Because they haven't been doing those. They've been having the offense meet and the defense meet separately. And, it just would be nice to have a 100% Kyle, like I think he's one of the best coaches in the league. So of course I want him at full strength coaching my favorite team. But the fact that he's already like, I saw something, I think it was either today or yesterday, that he spent like the most time he spent yet at practice, walking around out there. I feel like he's going to be back to his normal self real soon. Yeah, so I feel like they'll be all right, but I'll feel better when he's out there in 100% again.
Yeah.
I'll just say something real quick, and then I'm curious what your take is, Jason. I'm pretty optimistic Kyle's going to be fine. It's not like he has to put a helmet on and go out there and bang heads with anyone, so he should be okay. I will say the one thing that does concern me is, going through the practices, like he said, it was reported that he said the noise is what gives him the biggest problem, like the music at practice. So I'm thinking like, okay, I always hear about how the light bothers you too, so you wear sunglasses. Maybe he even puts, some cans on to block out some of the noise at practice or whatever. What happens week 1 in Australia when, like, I'm predicting a Niner heavy crowd in that arena? What happens when the Niners make a big play, especially early? Aussie fans are known to be pretty rambunctious. They got an NFL game, they got a great matchup, and like that stadium erupts, and all of a sudden Kyle's like, ooh, like I thought I was fine, and like this is a problem. I just wonder if they have a contingency plan for Kyle having to bow out mid-game. I wonder if that's something they're thinking about and talking about. And then if that does happen, is he just back in week 2? Like, we're just going to pretend that didn't happen. I just wonder if this is something that could affect him a lot longer than, just a couple of weeks here. My guess is Forrester would kind of take over as the game manager, calling timeouts and whatever. Clay Kubiak would call the offense, Raheem would call the defense, and they just go on that way. But I think that's something to keep an eye on, is like how the lights and mostly the noise is affecting him. And if all of a sudden, if he thinks, okay, I'm past that, I'm in the clear, and then all of a sudden that Aussie crowd just erupts, and he's like, ooh, maybe I'm not quite all the way past this.
Think that he's got like 2.5 months more to recover. So I would think he would be fine by then. I don't know the severity of
He's got
the
5 weeks.
concussion.
Yeah, it's only like a month and a half now.
September 11th is Niners Rams. It's August 1st.
August, September. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's got 5
Not
weeks.
that much time. I would think he would be good. I know it was reported it was a severe concussion. So, the fact that he's already out there, and I would think they would be thinking about that and they would be kind of testing it and seeing where he's at. In terms of like his influence over practice, like I do like that he's already back out there. I do like that he's been able to, he's consulting with everyone. He's making sure the ship is going the right direction. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just too optimistic about everything, but I think he'll be 100% by the time that rolls around. Because you just think about like football players, like they recover from concussions, depending on the severity of it, within weeks, and they're out there in loud stadiums and getting their bell rung and stuff like that. So I'm just going to teeter on the optimistic side and say I think he's going to be 100% by then.
I do too. You just never know. And I just wonder if they're planning for, like I said, if they have a contingency plan, if he's not. And I wonder what it is.
Yeah. So I've got a little bit of an existential kind of a take that I'm worried long term about Kyle. And the reason is because I listened to the Chris Sims interview that he did where he talked about how shook up Kyle was, how traumatic it was for Kyle, how traumatic it was for Kyle's family. And I think the number one thing that pulls people away from coaching is their families and the time they can spend with their families, or their family worried about them. And you hear all the time how much of a grind it is to be an NFL coach, how much time away from your family, all the sacrifice you have to make. And I've never gone through a near-death experience, thankfully, but, well, sort of, but that's a tale for another day. Ironically, it was in Australia. But I worry that something like that makes him think like, hey, life's not promised. Maybe I shouldn't be spending all this time grinding because, my kids are growing up right in front of me and blah, blah, blah. So I worry about his mental long term and maybe wanting to make a pivot to the media or retiring or taking time off, wanting to take a few years off. That's the stuff that I start to think about where I'm like, crap, I want Kyle. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. I agree with you there, Steven. And I think like I want him to be around indefinitely as long as he's, coaching and we're having good results and he's coaching at a high level. I want him to be around for a long time still. So that's kind of where my head goes because life's not promised and he just got to see that. So, yeah, I kind of worry about that. What's your guys' take on that?
So I hear you, and none of us would ever know like what's going through his mind or how experience like that could affect somebody and specifically him. I feel like though the odds of that are less likely with him because football is family for him. Like that is all he has ever known. Like that is, I think, central to his existence. So for one, I think it's that because he's a lifer and that's how he's grown up. But two, I think he is a super competitive guy. I mean, anybody to make it to this level has to be super competitive. And it's got to just eat at him that he has that reputation right now that he can't win the big one. He can get him there, but he can't win it. Like, I feel like he's going to have that fuel until he gets a ring. So maybe if he goes out and gets a ring and he feels fulfilled or whatever. I remember talking about like existential type stuff. I remember Deion Sanders talking about how he felt after he won his Super Bowl with the Niners, and it was just very unsatisfying. He was like that was the big thing that he was chasing, and that's why he signed with them, and they went and they won it, and like he said he was like the first guy to leave the locker room, and it was like that was it. Like that's what it was all about. He obviously went on and played, and not for the Niners, but you know I could see something like that happening. Like I've been giving my entire life to this and I win one and it doesn't feel that special. But I think for him, it would be that special, and that would be what keeps him going. So I don't worry about that. But you're right, Jason. We don't know. We don't know like what this experience could do to him. But I just think that it is like woven into the fabric of his being that he is a football guy, a football coach, and that's going to be him.
I agree. I don't. I think if this had happened to Sean McVay, I think that would be a much bigger concern because Sean McVay has already considered quitting. He's already considered a career in commentating or life outside the NFL, or at least coaching in the NFL. Kyle has publicly said he has no interest in any of that. He's a coach and only a coach, and he wants to do it forever. So I would have a hard time seeing him just walk away because he's rattled. My guess is he'll probably have to do some therapy and talk through this, and it's probably a stressful thing that he'll have to kind of deal with psychologically for a while. But I have a hard time seeing it force him away from coaching.
Maybe it'll give him some perspective though, Jason, to your point, where maybe it kind of gives him like a new energy, or maybe he eases off the gas a little bit in the right way, like I don't know. I'm just saying like it could impact him where he could use this in a way that helps him. It could obviously go the other way, right? It could be a negative, but I don't know. I want to say one thing. I know we talked about how none of us really care that much about like how long the story was, not reported on and whatever. I know that the local media is taking some flack and people are trying to make a big deal out of it. And I don't care about that. You don't really care about that. But one thing I did want to note about that is like, it's nice to know that the organization has his back and that there's not like a lot of leaks. Like the fact that they were able to do this on their terms and it was almost 2 weeks later in this day and age, like some people knew about it. Maybe it was very few, but some people in the organization obviously knew about it from when it happened. And to keep something like this under wraps, like I feel like that's a really good sign for everybody having each other's backs, being bought in, at the organizational level. I like that. I like that my team, like, I feel like that's incredibly impressive for somebody that high profile to um, not have something leak out sooner than it did, and for them to get to make a statement on their terms, and that's how the news comes out. Also, shout out to Tony Romo for taking some of the headlines and getting all the attention, and and maybe people will back off of Kyle now.
Yeah, Florio did say one thing that I kind of agreed with. He he was questioning why took so long to come out, and he said the Niners could have come out within a day or two and said Kyle's been in a car accident. He suffered non-life-threatening injuries. He'll recover, and that's all we're gonna say at this time. Please respect his privacy. They could have just said that, but they didn't. They held on to it until the start of training camp, and I don't know why they did. I suspect they had a good reason to. I don't know why. I don't really care why. If we ever find out why, cool. I am kind of curious, but I don't really care. And if people want to get upset at the media for not figuring it out sooner.
Well, I mean, what if it was just as simple as Kyle asked them not to? What if it was as simple as that, where he's like embarrassed, or maybe he was genuinely concerned about losing an eye and he's like, I don't want like all this extra heat and attention and everybody trying to, you know, get pictures of me or whatever, when we're trying to figure out, like what does this mean for me? Like I'm trying to because you can put that statement out that like Florio suggested. It doesn't mean people are going to respect the privacy. We all know that. Nobody's going to
No,
actually
I
do
know.
that.
People will start digging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
TMZ is like going to be hanging out at the hospital. Like, I want to try to get a picture of Kyle with an eye patch on.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I would love to see that picture too. That's funny. Okay, let's move on to on the field injuries because the most notable one is Ricky Pearsall. I had really high hopes for him this season. I thought he was going to dominate in fantasy for me, and instead, in my dynasty leagues, he's been moved to my IR slot already. Season's over. He's having surgery on the PCL. Um, that sucks. I don't really know what else to say. That sucks. It seems like they took a gamble that his PCL would heal on its own, like many other players have, and his, for whatever reason, did not. Now he's going to have the surgery, and it's basically like an ACL surgery. It's a 9+ month rehab until you're ready to go. So, obviously, this means his 5th year option will not get picked up, and his future with the Niners is very much in jeopardy. He could go out and have a big year 4, but now you're bidding against the rest of the NFL for him in free agency, and he'd be dumb to not go to free agency and see what offers are out there. So this is this I feel bad for Ricky. Sucks for the Niners. Sucks for us fans. What was your guys' kind of overall take and thoughts on the Ricky Pearsall injury news?
I'm just frustrated. I mean, I know it's not his fault, but man, he just hasn't been available. It's going to be year 3. Obviously, he got shot. He's had some injuries. Not really his fault, but honestly, I'm just frustrated because I think Ricky Pearsall is a really good wide receiver. And I think Brock Purdy does well with good route runners. And Ricky Pearsall has shown in limited time to be a really good route runner. So I think this really does hurt their offense. And an offense that I thought was going to be really good and really explosive through the air. I thought he was a perfect complement to a big X receiver like Mike Evans, someone that can be a little bit of a gadget,
Mm-hmm.
can run quick intermediate routes, super shifty, can beat the number 2 cornerback all day long in man or whatever. So I think it hurts, you know. I like the signing of Debo, kind of going into Debo, but Debo can't run routes. Debo can't separate. Debo would be amazing in like a Mac Jones, Jimmy G offense. Like I bet Mac Jones would love him if Brock had to miss any time. But I don't think Debo really fits a Brock Purdy offense where he likes to throw the ball downfield. He likes to throw on time to his receivers that are running crisp routes. So I think it really hurts. I was looking forward to Ricky being a strong number 2 receiver next to Big Mike. Christian Kirk being a really strong number 3, Dejon Stribling, showing what he can do when he's able to get on the field. I was really excited about our wide receiver core, and I do still think we have a relatively strong wide receiver core. I really do, but yeah, it hurts. It really hurts.
So, of course, it's disappointing and frustrating. Um, it's interesting, Ryan, you brought up the contract stuff. I don't know when these guys become eligible for extensions or when they can, sign something, but like I wonder if there's instead of the 5th year option, if they do some sort of lower level extension for like a year or 2 to say, we want you, we believe in you. Now, I'm not saying he would sign that necessarily, but it all just depends on his recovery and how things are going, right?
There is
Um,
some precedent with that. Uh, the Packers and Jordan Love. Love, because after 3 years, you're eligible for an extension. Obviously, Love set the bench for 3 years, and they had to either pick up his 5th year option, which would have been a massive guaranteed number, or they said, hey, how about a 2 year extension so your number's still low? You're still making more money than you would have, and now you're going to finally play. We can see what you have. Turns out he's good, and they extended him. So there is some precedent.
So, I mean, to me, something like that would make sense. Of course, his representation is going to want him to go out there and get as much money as he can. And of course, he wants to do that too. This is his life, his chance to earn money. I get
If he
it.
can produce in year 4, which is a
But
big
that's
if.
the thing. And that's
Yeah.
a big if because now you have a 3-year sample of him being off the field a lot more than he's on the field. And so it's like, from their standpoint, it might make sense to try to sign that 2-year extension, get a little more certainty, and still be set up to sign a big contract if things go well. So I don't know. It just depends on them. I guess what I'm saying is I don't think that it automatically means that like his time with the Niners is short. But I agree with you that it wouldn't really make sense to pick up the 5th year option. Anyways, it is too bad because I think he could fit in really well, and he offers something that at least the guys that I know about um, don't offer. But I mean, I know, I think Stribling, like, he missed practice today and he's like got some tightness or something like that.
Hammy.
But from what I've heard, he's looked really good. Now, it's one thing to look really good in practice, it's another in the games, right? But if he can, I guess, show that promise when it actually counts, I agree with Chasen that I still feel like they're in good shape with their receiving core. Like, it does put more pressure on him because if you had a healthy Pearsall, it's like, hey, Stribling, you can just, develop, and anything that you do is kind of bonus, right? Because we got the vets that we're gonna rely on. Pearsall's our up and comer, that's like, this is his time to shine. Stribling, you get a little pressure off your shoulders, but I do think now that puts more pressure on him. Anyways, I still think that they could be good, as a group, as a receiving group, and also I think Kyle has proven to scheme guys open, like you were talking about with Debo Chase. You're right that Debo might not go win all the one-on-one matchups, but I also think that he's going to be put in positions where a few times a game he'll have a big play. But yeah, it sucks for Ricky, man. I like what he seems like he could be, like the glimpses that he's shown us. Like you were talking about Ryan being really excited, thought he was going to go off. I was hoping for that too. I thought he had a chance to be their best receiver. Mike Evans going to get all the headlines, and they're going to want to show that he wasn't, like, I don't know. He was the important addition, but I thought that Ricky could actually come in and be the guy who at the end of the season leads the team in receiving yards and touchdowns.
Ricky was going to finally play the position they drafted him to play, which was the Z.
The Z.
Mike Evans is your X. That's what Brandon Ayuk did, and Ricky works underneath. It was going to be their Mike and Ricky are a perfect complement to each other. So yeah, that sucks. I guess I kind of want to chat about this a little bit. The wide receiver room, you guys seem pretty optimistic. I don't think Christian Kirk is making this team, and if he does, I think that's a problem. He's awful, and he's injured. He hasn't practiced one time, and he's been injured a lot the last couple of years. They have Cowing and Watkins, who are nothing but potential. They've done nothing in their careers. Mike Evans is awesome, but he's been injured. Debo Samuel used to be good, but he's slow and doesn't get open and could have big games here and there, but not the most reliable player at the age of 30. Who else?
Well, I would say,
Like, why are you high on Christian Kirk?
I mean, not that I'm high as in he's going to be like a wide receiver 1, but I think he's going to be an excellent wide receiver 3. I don't know why you say he's terrible.
Well, he hasn't been on the field for the last couple of years.
I get that, but there's plenty of players that have injury history. That's why we were able to get him so affordably. He's shown that he can produce big time, and he's not that old yet.
I would make a bet with you right now. He's not going to make the team.
I'll take that bet.
He's not going to make the 53.
I think he's going to be a starting wide receiver.
Although
for the Niners,
with Ricky's, that was kind of my take prior to Ricky getting hurt, because the way he will make the team is injuries, and they have to keep him. He's like their Willie Snead or something. Like, he's just kind of a vet body there, but they didn't really guarantee him much money. And I think if Mike, Debo, like, to me, Stribling is wide receiver 2, not Debo, not Christian Kirk, not Ricky. Obviously, it's Stribling, and that's all the good things I've heard about Stribling. That's a problem because he's unproven. And behind him, it's like you have a gadget player and just unproven nothingness.
yeah. So it is a bit of a projection with Stribling and not Cowing. I'm not too high on Cowing, but
and I like Watkins, but it's just he's unproven. It's a projection.
Yeah. So we're projecting a bit. I'm projecting that Stribling is going to be able to produce pretty early on because he's an older
I would agree with that.
rookie. His dad's a Marine. He works hard as long as
Everyone
he's
says that.
healthy.
I don't know why that matters, but
I didn't even know that, but go ahead.
he got asked about it so much when he was drafted. So your dad's a Marine. It's like, okay. So he's
You just say
disciplined, I guess.
hoorah when they would
Discipline.
ask that.
Yeah.
Hoorah. Yeah. Okay. Is your dad gonna like I don't know. He's disciplined and he works hard and he got that
Yeah.
from his dad, It's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Everybody that made it to the NFL had to work hard at something, but
Well, I don't
except
know.
Randy Moss.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know about
But there's only so
everyone.
many freaks of nature. I'd like to respond a little bit to Ryan's take on the receiver room because I am optimistic about it.
Please.
I
tell
think
me why I'm wrong, because I want to be wrong.
I don't know that you're. I think it's just the way that you're looking at it. If you are looking at it from a fantasy football perspective, that are we going to have a stud wide receiver on this team? No, I don't think we are. So like if you want our version of, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, they're not on this team. And we're not going to have any wide receivers that are going to make the Pro Bowl and stand out. But what we do
See,
have,
I would disagree with that. I want
you
Mike Evans on my team this year.
well, okay, so that's fine. I'm not expecting that. What I think we have is a collection of really solid, good guys that can do their job, and that's exactly what a Kyle Shanahan offense calls for. I mean, we've talked several times about how you can't expect big wide receiver numbers from a Shanahan offense. The closest that we've ever had was either Debo's 2021 season, which a big chunk of his numbers came from rushing as well. Like that's why his numbers look so good, or Ayuk's big season. And the fact that he did what he did on so few receptions is actually pretty remarkable because for most guys to hit those numbers, they would have had 20, 30 more catches in the season to get there.
At
That's
least, yeah.
not going to happen in Shanahan's offense. It's just not. And so when I look at this collection of guys, I feel like they are all solid. I don't know that I'd give any one of them an A grade. I mean, for his career, Mike Evans is like an A or an A plus, but I'm just going to assume that he is not peak Mike Evans at this point and that he might miss a couple games and that they're going to have to manage him a little bit. But I think all these guys are going to come in and play their role. I was probably a little bit more down on bringing Debo back than you might expect for a guy who really, really loves Debo. But I was pretty, like, oh my gosh, it's not the same Debo. We're not getting, Debo from a few years ago. But I saw somebody make a point that, like, kind of changed my thinking a little bit on it. I can't remember who it was, but they were like, the Niners are not asking Debo to come in and be a number one or even a number two. They're paying him up to $7 million to be in a supporting role, and what they need him to do is 2 or 3 times a game make a play for him, and they're going to set him up to do that. They're not going to, and he might have a few games where he does make 6, 7, 8 catches and gets 100 yards and gets a touchdown or two, and then he might have 2, 3 games in a row where it's like, well, Debo got less than 30 yards again this game, but that's what they're going to ask him to do, is to play a role. And I feel like that's what their receiver room is. It's a bunch of guys that are going to go out and do their job as long as they stay healthy, which I know is a big if. But as long as they stay healthy, like a guy that we didn't even talk about, which I'm not saying he's the key to the season. And for all I know, maybe he's not going to make the roster either. But isn't Demarcus Robinson still around too? Like he's a solid vet. Like I feel like I like every single one of the receivers that we talked about, with that maybe the exception of Cowan and Watkins because they're just so unproven. But you give me Mike Evans, you give me Christian Kirk, you give me Debo, you give me Stribling, you give me Demarcus Robinson. I like all 5 of those guys and feel much better about them than I do about Kendrick Bourne. I would not want Kendrick Bourne anywhere near us. And
No.
guess what? Last year against the freaking Rams on Monday Night Football in LA, Kendrick Bourne went off because they were able to scheme things up for him. So it's like if you can make Kendrick Bourne do that in a game with your scheme and with your personnel, I feel like we're going to be just fine. And you might not even have a receiver crack 1,000 yards out of our collection of guys. And that's okay as long as they're winning a bunch of games. So that's why I feel good about it. But I'm not here to tell you that like we have a bunch of Pro Bowlers out there, and like it's going to be like Lamb and Pickens in Dallas. Like, oh, come mess with our receiving core. It's not. It's just different, and I feel like that's okay and actually kind of fitting for Shanahan.
Yeah, I just Mike Evans 33, Christian Kirk 30, Demarcus Robinson 30, Debo 30. Like that's not. I don't think that's a recipe for success. You need if you're gonna have a bunch of guys like that, you need depth, and I just don't think they have it. I think Robinson will make the team. I don't think Kirk will. Just and it's not because he's not good enough. I don't think he's good enough, but I think it's because he won't be healthy, which he currently isn't. So if he can get healthy, we'll see. I'm not. If I'm going into the season relying on Christian Kirk to do anything more than catch like 10 balls, then I think we're screwed.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. I guess I don't look at any of these guys like we're not relying on any one of them. Probably Mike Evans. He's probably the one that we got to rely on the
Oh
most,
yeah,
right?
he's gonna
But
get fed.
other than Mike Evans, I don't look at it as, oh man, our the hopes and dreams of this season are pinned on this one guy. It's like no, it's a collection of guys that can step in and do it because they're vets and they know how to play, and they're it's not going to be the same every week, in my opinion. But who
I
knows?
think I was really optimistic about our wide receivers when Pearsall was healthy. If you'd have told me it's Mike, Pearsall, and Stribling, those are our top three, I'd honestly be feeling pretty good. Once Pearsall goes down, and then it's like you just start looking at what's behind him. Because, like you said, is Mike Evans going to play 17 games? If you told me right now he's going to play 14 games, would you take it or leave it? I would take that. I would
Take it,
take that in a heartbeat because there's
take
a
it
good
for
chance he
sure.
could play less than that. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Like one of my concerns about this whole team kind of has to do with depth, and I think the wide receiver room kind of highlights it. Let me ask you guys this about Debo, because you mentioned he's not going to come in and be like the engine of the offense. Like they're just going to kind of find a role for him, which is the smart thing to do. Let him be the gadget, let him be the kick returner, let him carry the ball here and there, the reverses and stuff. That's the smart thing to do. Is Kyle going to do the smart thing and do that? Or is he going
Mm-mm.
to get obsessed with his buddy Debo like he did in 2024 and just start force feeding him the ball? And all of a sudden, Debo is getting 8 or 9 touches a game, but he has 60 yards from scrimmage because there's just nothing for him because the defense knows he's getting the ball. So we all agree that I think we know how Debo should be used. Are you concerned at all that Kyle's going to press the Debo button too many times because it's his buddy?
I think if there's other injuries, possibly, like if McCaffrey's out, if Kittle's out, like if some of their other superstars, Mike Evans is out, he's going to start trying to mash that Debo button. But with the current superstars they have and the fact, like just looking at the contract that Debo's coming back on, the fact that they like let him walk and or I guess technically traded him and now he's like coming back, I feel like there's a pretty clear consensus on what his role is. He's the kick returner, he's the gadget guy. So I do think it's going to be different, but there there is that risk.
So I sure hope that he is smart about it. I am a little concerned that it is going to be the force feed thing just because, one, we saw it before in 2024. How many times have we been frustrated with how much he gives the ball to McCaffrey? Like, it does feel like Kyle is susceptible to that. As much as I love him and as great of a coach as I think he is, it does seem like he'll get fixated on certain things. And I don't want that. I don't like that. Maybe it's not fair to Kyle. Maybe it's, maybe it's Debo in the huddle saying, "Brock, give me that ball on this play right now or I'm going to break your thumb." I don't know. But,
I don't,
um
I don't think so, but
I don't
you
think
never
so
know.
either, but I mean, I'm just saying like I hope he's that smart. He should be that smart. I guess we'll see. I'm emotionally preparing myself for some moments or games of frustration where it's like, why the F are we still throwing it there instead of trying over there?
This might
Yeah,
be a crazy take, but like I actually think Debo is gonna have just a little bit of magic this season. I think this is gonna be his last season where he's still got some juice. I'm not saying prime Debo, but I think he's going to have a few games, like you said, Steven, where he's going to go over 100 yards. We're going to see him break a couple tackles. Like, I think the Debo we're getting this year is going to be better than the Debo in 2024. But
I agree with you. I mean, I feel like he looked good, like when he showed up, like he looks like he's a more fit
He looks
Debo.
slimmer, which is
Yeah.
good.
And he always seems to do better when he's a little more trim. I gotta think that he has a chip on his shoulder and he wants to
yeah,
prove that he is still that guy. Yeah, if anyone were gonna like, if you're looking for a good value bet of which Niner receiver would lead the team, it would be Debo. Like in terms of like receiving yards or something, because I don't think anybody's really planning on that. And you're right, Chasen. He still could have that in there. I just wouldn't count on it. I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to help. I think it's going to be nice to have just like the Debo aura back, right? Like the veteran leadership, coming out with the boombox, all the stuff. Like it's going to be fun. But you got to temper your expectations. I mean, so Ryan, I'm sorry, I don't mean to just keep harping on this, but you talk about like you feel like they need depth in the receiver room or whatever. I feel like that's what they actually have. I feel like they have depth. They just don't have anything at the top. And so I feel like that's kind of the theme for this Niners team. Like it seems like across the board, they're other than, I mean, on defense, they have some studs that are like best player in the league at their position or in that conversation. On offense, I don't know if they do. I mean, Kittle if he's healthy, yes. McCaffrey, sure, he's towards that, but I don't think anybody's putting McCaffrey in front of Bijan or Saquon these days, right? Like he's still great. Don't get me wrong, but my point is, I know. Look. I love Christian McCaffrey. He's awesome, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like all these guys are kind of at a point in their career where we're not just saying our guy's going to go beat your guy one on one because he is just that much of a supernova. It is these guys have to go out there and execute and do their job, and I'm going to trust that they know how to because they're a bunch of veterans, and I think it's going to be one of those, the sum of all the parts is greater than just, having the best, the fastest, the strongest, whatever.
Yeah, we definitely disagree on the wide receiver room because I think they've got it at the top. I think Mike Evans is still sick, and I think Stribling is going to prove that he's like really good. And I think they have absolutely nothing behind them. I will say I'm happy to have Debo back. I shouldn't say nothing because I do think Debo can provide quality reps. And like I agree with you, Chasing. There's going to be moments in games where it's like, dude, Debo took over in that game, and they wouldn't have won that game without Debo. I think he'll have those moments for sure. I just think there's absolutely nothing behind those three, I'll say. So, anyway, let's move on to the next topic because you're actually just talking about it right there. Was your biggest concern coming into training camp? And I'll just say mine because you just highlighted it. And it's that this team has a lot of high end talent at the top, kind of across the board, and very little proven depth behind them. There's a lot of guys, a lot of young guys, first and second year players who I really like, but are unproven. Um, a lot of the guys are injury prone, like the Mike Evans of the world. Christian McCaffrey or George Kittle. Those guys are coming off big seasons, especially McCaffrey got a lot of touches. We know the history of him the following year. After year of having a lot of touches, he does not do well. By all accounts, he looks explosive and healthy and great right now. We'll see how that carries on. The defensive line, they have like a lot of various skill sets that I think all complement each other really well, but a lot of them are unproven, like Romello Height, like Michael Williams, who's coming off an injury, like Alfred Collins, like CJ West. These guys are all unproven. I'm happy they're getting Bosa back. I think Osa Odigizua is going to be a monster this year. But really, outside those two guys on the D line, there's not a lot there. You go to linebackers like Fred Warner. I'm going to pencil him in as all pro Fred. He's back. Dre Greenlaw, does he play 2 games? Does he play 17 games or somewhere in between? They have nothing behind him. I actually think they have some solid depth in the secondary, especially specifically at corner. At safety, not really, but at corner, I think they're actually doing. They look pretty good there. Running back, it's like McCaffrey, unproven rookies. Offensive line, decent starters, good starters, maybe even unproven depth. So this team to me is like, if they're healthy, Super Bowl contenders, a couple injuries away from like fighting to stay at 500.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Is
feel
that
like
fair or not fair?
no, I would agree. I think they're kind of like the Rams a few years ago where they were
The Rams this year, I think, are the same way.
yeah.
I think they're really top heavy, but I bet you they don't have a ton of depth.
Yeah. I think it really comes down to like these young guys that you were mentioning, the Upton Stouts, the Michael Williams, like these guys that we have really high hopes for need to like show up and actually produce. And that's kind of the scary part. I could see the Niners being like a 500 team. I could also see them being one of the best teams in the NFL. And it just depends on those young guys, not just the first year, but second year, third year. Those are the guys that need to step up and produce, and we need to
Mhm.
show that we're drafting better. But yeah, I would agree. What do you think, Steven?
I think Noah is getting really upset with your guys'
I
pessimism,
wasn't sure if you could hear him or not.
and I totally understand why. It's, I mean, I tend to be optimistic, but I feel like they just proved that they could still be a really good competitive team last season, and I think they have, with all kinds of injuries. What, you don't like 12-5, huh?
No,
And
I
and
don't like
and
getting our backs blown out by a division rival in the divisional round. Like, I'm thinking, can this team win the Super Bowl? Because that's the goal, right? Not can this team make the playoffs. Who cares about making the playoffs? As Niner fans, we're supposed to be competing for Super Bowls. We're not the New York Giants. Like, can we just make a playoff? Like, I don't.
so
Can this team make the playoffs? Hurt or healthy? Yes. Are they going to get absolutely destroyed once they get there again, or do they have the depth
possibly.
to overcome some of those injuries?
Well, I guess it just depends on the extent of the injury. That's what I'm trying to, I guess, understand what you're asking, because I think this healthy team absolutely is a Super Bowl contender. I also think that this year's team has better depth than last year's team, if for nothing else, because a bunch of young guys were forced into action and they've already done it, and now they have that experience. So if you were gonna tell me that we're gonna have as many injuries this year as we had last year, I would expect this version of the Niners to be as good or better than what they did last year. And so what
Okay.
I'm trying to say is they went 12-5 and won a road playoff game last year. Does that mean that they can have the same extent of injuries that they had last year and win the Super Bowl? Probably not. But I don't know if any team can do that. I mean, I maybe you can think of an example in the past or whatever, but I can't. I don't. And I feel like the Seahawks, who, crushed in the playoffs last year, were relatively healthy from what I remember. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that that is not a coincidence. The Niners look like kings of the world in 2023 because they were relatively healthy, right? Like it's not like it's a secret. You have your best players out there, you look really good. Um so yeah, I guess, Ryan, I don't think if they lose the same amount of guys that we should expect a Super Bowl. But I do expect them to be a competitive team and a playoff team, unless there's just like, some crippling injuries, like maybe both Brock and Mac are hurt or something like that. Then that becomes really difficult.
Not a
But
Curtis Rourke believer.
yeah, not yet. He can still convince me. But so I mean, but to answer your question, or the spirit of your question, like, I'm not as concerned about their depth as it sounds like you are. Even like when you're talking about linebacker, you're right. A lot of it is pinning hopes on unproven guys. But like, you were calling all last year, where's Nick Martin? Let's see Nick Martin. I want to see Nick Martin.
Mm-hmm.
I've read some stuff that he's been flashing at camp. So maybe, just maybe, it was the right thing to kind of redshirt him for a year last year and let him develop, and maybe he's going to come out breathing fire. Or maybe this is just preseason hype and he's going to look great in practices, and he's going to, turn into a pumpkin again and not look good. I don't know. But I don't think their linebackers are that concerning. Isn't Bethune still around?
Yes.
And I'm not saying that Tatum Bethune is an all pro. I'm saying that right now, in my mind, he's our fourth linebacker. I think you could do a lot worse than him as your fourth linebacker.
Well, he's Fred's backup, so
But I mean, you get the point that I'm making is like I feel like it's not so bleak. Like he was out there making plays last year against other team starters, and I feel like he didn't have the same supporting cast that he'll have this year. Osa and Bosa out there, man, that's going to make a huge difference. I mean, we were piecing together a D line last year, and I do think Mikel's going to come back and be really good. I mean, I know coming off an injury, but I think Mikel's going to be a really good player. I'm not saying, that he's also going to the Pro Bowl or anything, but I think he's going to, I just have a feeling that he's going to have a good year.
Can we pause on Michael? What's his current trajectory to return? Because I think he's a huge key piece to like how good this defense is going to be. When is he projected to
I
return?
don't think he has a timeline yet. I've just seen video of him like on the side field doing high knees and stuff, but
I think he's probably on a similar timeline as Bosa. I would think they had his.
I don't think so.
In full.
I think Bosa's going to be on the field in Australia chasing Matt Stafford. I don't
Yeah.
think Michael Williams will be.
Bosa's
Really?
practicing with like no limitations right
Yeah.
now, and Michael hasn't returned to practice yet.
I thought I just read the other day that Bosa hasn't been doing team drills. That he's mostly just doing like one-on-one.
I don't know
stuff.
if he's doing team drills, but he's going to be out there. He's ready to go.
Okay.
He might not be doing team drills just because they're like, being safe or taking it easy, but I bet you he could do it right now if he wanted to.
I really don't know. I'm just assuming because they had similar injuries and he's a young guy and all the things that he would. Michael, I haven't heard any like concerns or whatever, so I've been assuming that Michael's going to be good to go for week 1, but I don't
He
know.
tore his ACL, I think, 5 weeks after Bosa, so he's probably about at least a month behind on the rehab. So maybe toward the end of September, come October, week 3 to week 6 would be kind of be my guess.
So I just Googled it, and the AI overview is saying that the last thing we've heard from general manager John Lynch is that he anticipates Williams returning to practice during training camp, with management noting he is aiming to be available for the regular season open.
Yeah, I mean, I probably could have told you that. They always aim to do these things. We know the Niners, they never happen.
Well, I guess we'll see. But anyways, I feel like I'm pretty optimistic. I feel like this is a better team than they had last year. And
I agree with that.
And I don't know why if an injury riddled version of the Niners got to the second round of the playoffs last year, if this team, even if they don't stay fully healthy, but they just have half as many injuries as they had last year, I don't know why they wouldn't be in the Super Bowl conversation.
One big reason why I'm confident in this team, I think Brock Purdy's going to be even better next season. I think he's on an upward trajectory, and I think he's going to establish himself as a top 5 quarterback next season. Like, solidified.
Okay, we spent way too much time talking about my concern about this team. I got to get going here soon. So just quick, tell me what concerns you have about this team going into training camp. Obviously mine was the depth. What about you guys?
Mine is probably the offensive line still. I know they've got 2 beasts at tackle, but I don't like their interior.
Jason's come a long way on McKivitz. Wow. Just called him a beast.
He's a beast now. But I don't like their interior guys. I don't think they address that enough. My other concern, I guess, would be similar to yours. If a McCaffrey goes down, it's like, damn, what do we do? If a Mike Evans goes down, if a Kittle goes down, that's very detrimental to the offense.
Kittle already went down.
Yeah.
Tight end is probably the worst position group on this team right now.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
I'm sorry, Jake Tonjes. I'm sorry, Ryan said that.
I'm not. I like Jake Tonjes, but there's nothing behind him.
And then our safety group. I don't like our safety group.
Hey, whoa, trying to interview Mustafa here.
Yeah.
He's the one safety I do like.
What are you talking about, Chasen?
Yeah, that's the one safety I do like. And I think he's going to have a much better year this year than he did last year. So I'm excited about Mustafa. Mustafa, please respond to our DMs.
Yeah.
So those are my concerns. Interior offensive line, safety, and then just overall depth.
When you say safety, are you talking like the starting safeties, or are you concerned about like an injury in the depth?
The starting safety outside of Malik Mustafa and depth.
So I think Chasen brought up a really good point with the O-line, especially the tackles, because either tackle gets hurt. It's just don't know. I mean, maybe there's
Yeah.
a guy, but
I mean, you could say that about all 32 teams, right? It's not
that's
like
true.
there's like 10 teams out there who are like, our starters are sweet and our backups are sweet. Like, that just doesn't exist.
No, I know. It. I mean, it feels like a bit of a cop out answer, but it truly the health is I guess the concerning thing. Like it's concerning to me that there's already injuries piling up
Yeah.
right now. I feel like here we go again. I hope they can have better luck this year than they've had, but maybe we're just too much PTSD from recent years. So that'd be my biggest concern is just the health. I mean, it is a veteran team and you're relying on veteran players to stay out there and contribute for you. And if it works, it's going to be awesome. I think they're going to be great because you're going to have a bunch of guys that really know what they're doing. But the risk, and it's a bigger risk, is the older guys might break down more and they might miss more time. I do think that like the Rams at their best are probably better than the Niners at their best. I mean, just looking at them, right? How could you say otherwise?
I think,
But
I think the Rams are the best team in the division. Sorry, go ahead.
but to your point, Ryan, like I think they have a greater variance too. Like, if Brock Purdy has to miss half the season, I think because I just saw it last year, Matt can come in and keep him competitive. If Matt Stafford has to miss half the season, I think that can like kill the Rams' hopes, or really dig a hole for him.
Jimmy G's
And
not still there, is he?
I
I
have
don't
no
think he is.
idea.
They got that young guy, the 13th pick.
I thought Jimmy might have announced his retirement.
I think
Well,
he did. I don't know.
if he did, I
Or
wish him
maybe I
luck.
saw that he was contemplating retirement.
But anyways, I guess I feel like the variance is greater for the Rams or some other teams that you would maybe think of as like being top heavy. Whereas I have more faith in the Niners, whether it's coaching, whether it's depth, whatever you want to call it. I have more faith that they would be able to figure it out and still field a good team compared to like teams where they are truly relying on a superstar.
It makes me sad to know that I'm never going to see my dream of a Jimmy G quarterback team against the Niners.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Well, I have a quick update. Jimmy Garoppolo's announced he's not going to be retiring.
Good.
And currently, the two leaders to sign him, or where he's rumored to, are the Bills and the Patriots.
Two teams which we don't play.
Yeah.
So he was on the
Super Bowl.
Raiders, and the Niners practiced against the Raiders in joint practices, and I would have taken that. I would just to read the practice reports, but he was injured and didn't practice. And then he's been with the Rams now, but Stafford was always healthy. He never played. So I'm never going to get to see Jimmy go against the Niners. And that makes me sad.
Can you imagine how much like Kyle would just be in his head and know exactly like
Kyle,
what to do?
Fred
against,
would be in his head.
Well, okay, but I'm saying like just know exactly like how to make him uncomfortable.
Kyle
And
might coach the defense that week.
right, exactly.
Like Raheem, here's the game plan. Just
right.
trust me. All right. Well, I got to go. Dinner's ready. So when we come back, we'll talk about the things that we like about this team and the training camp, because we talked about some of the negative stuff. But there are things that I really like about this team and why I think they're going to have a good year. And we'll talk about more of the positive storylines coming out of training camp.
We are overall happy that Debo is back.
Yeah,
Go,
I
Debo.
am. I heard that they were talking to him regardless of Pearsall's injury. That just kind of sped things up. I mean, if you had Debo was like wide receiver 3-4 with like Mike, I mean, I think that would have been. I would feel so much better about this wide receiver room. Ricky to me just like was a gut shot.
Yeah, it was.
All right, we'll chat soon. See ya.
All right.
All right.
Later, guys.
Bye.